Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TEPSA Presents. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. We are thrilled every week to bring you a variety of topics, whether it's different conversation pieces, member spotlights, and today is a nice combination of both. We have the National Assistant Principal of the Year from Texas on with us today, Miss Rachel Corbin. Rachel, thank you for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. It is such an honor to be here, and I just can't thank Todd enough for stretching me and growing me by coming on here and sharing a little bit about myself and my journey. My journey is actually a 24-year career. It's amazing for me to say that nowadays, but it is. I spent 14 years as a teacher. 11 years of that was in the state of Ohio. Go Bucks, sorry. And then I moved to Texas and spent 3 more years as a teacher before I moved into administration. So believe it or not, my start into just educational leadership started most likely in my 3rd year of teaching. I was in a small district right outside Cleveland, Ohio, and it was small but prestigious. And so they were very high expectations, high standards, but they were always strategically trying to elevate what they were doing. And so I just it's kind of just been part of my nature to always want to be part of that continuous improvement. So as a small district, they relied on teacher leaders. Mm-hmm. They had the teachers, one principal, and then they had central administration. And so our teacher leaders of each building were really involved with our principals. And then it just kind of started there. And my 3rd year of teaching, I was part of the local union. And I say that sensitively, but it was actually an awesome thing. Yeah. I was fortunate to be in a district where our central leadership and our teachers had a really collaborative infrastructure. And so our central administration knew that they relied on us and our input. And so little did I know then that I do now that they were really all circled and embraced servant leadership, and they were building the capacity of their teachers. And so part of that was, through the years I became part of the executive board of the union, and I was like standing there right next to my superintendent, making really tough decisions for our district. And so through that, there was a lot of influence of saying, you're doing the job as it is, Rachel. You might as well go into it. And right. So that's when I was like, all right, I dipped into the whole school administration. I already had my master's, but I went ahead and went into the certification process for school administration. And so that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
And then I started, when I moved to Texas, I started my administration there, and it just kind of spiraled, and I loved my AP role. I will say that. So I did it for 10 years. And there was a point in time when I moved, I'm now in McKinney, Texas. And so when I moved to McKinney 6 years ago, it was during a time where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I just knew there needed to be some sort of change. I just needed something to help me grow more. And so that's where I just said, well, I'm going to just see what happens and what doors open. And I may or may not stay where I am, or I may find a door that, welcomes me in. And that opportunity came. And it was, one of those decisions where I wasn't sure if I should do it or not. Mm-hmm. But it probably was one of the, I say to this day, it's probably one of the best things I did, because it helps me love my AP role.
Yeah.
And so, and it was when I came to McKinney and just had an awesome partner, and we really shared a great vision, and we really looked at each other as true partners. And I think that was one of the greatest things about it. We were 2 principals, we're principals, there wasn't a principal and AP. It was just, we just considered ourselves as true making decisions together. And so there were many years where I was saying, I think I could ride this horse into the sunset. So
yeah.
Horizon. So that's kind of where that all led me. And then came a time last year where, somebody nudged me and said, it's time. I think they've been saying that, but, it was one of those things where like, you hear, I have this charge, and I knew my charge is always to do what's right for kids. And no matter where I am and who I'm with. And when I started hearing that the need was there more and more for my district, it really compelled me to do what's right. And so that's when I just jumped in, and I totally like within 24/7 probably made that decision. I was like, I'm like, if you would have asked me 2 days ago, I would never have thought I was be thinking this, but that call came to really consider it, and that the need was there. The kids need you. That's all they have to say, And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Let's go.
I
Let's do
love
this.
it. Well, Rachel, you're also, like I said in the intro, the National Assistant Principal of the Year for Texas. And so what has that experience been like? Because I know, any kind of recognition that we get as leaders is humbling. But when you have this recognition that's, you're representing the state of Texas for assistant principals kind of thing. What was it like for you? What's it been like?
Well, funny that you should say that, because it was one of those things where my leadership team at my former campus, they somewhat nominated me without me knowing, knowing that I'm one. I was built. My dad grew us to do things because it's the right thing, not because of recognition or for honor. You do it because it's what you need to do. And so I always move forward with that charge. And so they did that. And, I was like, I kind of fought them tooth and nail a little bit, saying, to me, I do what so many of my colleagues do. Like, I don't think that I'm something special or spectacular. So that was my thing. But I allowed them to push me. Like a lot of people like to do, I like to push others, and so others push me. So that's part of the whole AP role is, and I will say this later, is you got to walk the walk. And so if I'm going to be pushing my teachers to challenge themselves, I'm like, okay, I will challenge myself too. And I'll also say I went to that next step of writing. There were questions you had to write, and say about some of your initiatives and take ownership. And I also went back to my administrative team. I'm like, I have a problem here. Like, I can't take ownership of these charges and initiatives because we own them. I can't put the I to this. And so again, they just talked me through it, and it finally came time. Just write it with your heart, with a we, and then and give it to us, and we'll just substitute the we's with an I. And I was like, so they're like, no, you are part of it, and you help lead us in it. And I was like, but that's part of that collaborative servant leadership. That's so important to me. Like I said before, it's how I was taught unknowingly when I was a teacher and being a part of that district leadership team. It's about doing it together. And so I think that was one of the hardest things was, it's like you said, being humble and accepting it, and then saying, okay, I'm going to accept this for my team, my school, and also for my district, because my district is also so supportive, and have also been one of the key people as a whole district leadership team in helping me grow and push the limits. And so, and part of the role has also been, unbeknownst to me, doing roles like this and the PEPSA conference and things like that. So again, a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I am here ready to stretch myself and take it on. So,
well, I always feel like the best leaders are ones that are willing to jump into a challenge even when they're absolutely terrified and have no idea how it's going to work out. But Rachel, you mentioned you are one of our speakers at our Assistant Principals Conference coming up next month. Well, gosh,
I know, no pressure.
It's actually like 2 weeks away or so, and so maybe 3. But I'm so excited that you're going to be there, just because I love learning from others. And I think you're a great example of a humble servant leader that we can all take pointers from at all points in our career. And so those who are going to be at the conference will get to hear a little more from you, but let's give them kind of a taste. I know you're going to be talking about some leadership tips for them. So if you were going to leave our listeners or viewers with just one of your tips today, what would be a tip that you'd leave?
I think something that's major is, and it's what I mentioned earlier, is that it is always important to lead by example. And so when we're talking about being an assistant principal or just being a part of the leadership team, it is so important to sharing that vision of why you're together, and understanding that with that charge, you're charging to lead teachers and serve teachers to elevate their practices and to yield what? To yield the growth in our kids, to elevate our kids. And so if we want our teachers to change and we want our teachers to grow, then we ourselves have to be the change. We have to also be not afraid to grow ourselves. And so there's that piece where we can't, like I kind of said earlier, it's like you can't pigeonhole yourself into the safe areas. If there's something I've learned in 10 years of being an AP and some of my best experiences is not being afraid of doing some of the tough stuff. You have to have that sense of urgency to face some of the hardest challenges as a leader. And there's that part of you that that you want to many times give the autonomy to your teachers and build that capacity. And that is a big part of it. You must trust your teachers and trust the autonomy of your teachers. But there's also that part of it where you have to walk the walk and be a part of it so that you can also verify that what you've charged them with is actually happening. Right. So it's not just telling them what to do, but it's also immersing yourself and, bringing it back up and checking with them and seeing how are they doing with what it was that we talked about 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and, continuously cycling through to help them with that charge or with that change. I speak with that because I know we're coming up. We're getting ready to go to the PLC conference, and there's that cycle of PLCs. And that's one of the things when you start with a big vision at the beginning of the year, it's, you don't start it and let them go. You want to trust them, and you let them go and trust them, but then you come back and you immerse yourself in it again and just check in with them on a regular basis on those PLC meetings and things like that. So it's just so important to walk the walk with them, not just lead in front of them, So we always tell our teachers, even when they're leading their kids through the hallways, don't stand in front of the line and expect that all the kids are going to be back behind her doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yep. Like, no, you need to be, in the middle of the line and just walking with them and modeling with them and, celebrating what's happening, what's going on that they're doing right and helping those that need the support to do things right, So it's a perfect way to parallel what we need to do for our teachers as well. So I love it. That's a big part of it. Walk the walk with them.
Well, Rachel, I am so excited to hear more of your tips. Everybody listening, you can come and learn from people like the incredible Rachel Corbin at our Assistant Principal Conference in Austin, Texas this October. And all of your meals are included in the conference. So, why would you not want to be there? Whether you are an assistant principal, an aspiring administrator, a principal, a superintendent, everybody's invited because these tips are great for all. Well, Rachel, it has been so great getting to talk with you today. I can't wait to see you in a few weeks. And thank you so much for being a part of TEPSA and for all you do to lead those across the state.
Thank you as well, Todd.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode. Remember, you can check out next week's episode for more learning and fun and see any past episodes on our podcast on Apple Music or Spotify.